First trend we're going to talk about is campuses getting older. Obviously, as time goes on, campuses do get older, but the amount of high-risk space, that is, the space that is over 50 years old without having been renovated, or we call our renovation age. So it's not just construction age, but this is actual renovation age. So most of these buildings will have missed at least one modernization and update cycle because they're now 50 years old and have not been renovated. And you can see the overall trend shows quite an increase of about 15% just in the last 5 years of space over 50 years old. So since 2007 to 2011, it's gone from about 18% to about 23%. That's pretty significant on a database of, when you're dealing almost over 800 million square feet. When we look at particular types of institutions, you can see the public institutions have a very more rapid increase in the amount of space over 50 years old. 21% of the space is over 50 years old. Just under 15%, about 14.5% was in 2007. That is now up to about 18%. And while that is a little bit lower than the private institutions, the public institutions, I think we're starting to see this trend accelerate over the next decade or so because of the number of buildings that were built, the amount of space that was built in the 1960s to deal with the baby boomer population. Those buildings now, a 1960 building reached 50-year-old mark in 2010, and as a result, those buildings are now going to, unless they've been renovated, we're going to see all of those 1960s buildings click over to 50-year-old period, which puts that space at much higher risk of failure and a risk of not being really in the kind of condition that's needed to operate the campus efficiently and effectively. When we look at the private campuses, actually the spaces been about the same. When we take a look at 2007, just under 25%. It's just about the same in 2011, so it hasn't changed a lot. What we've seen is, though, is that if you remember going back to the public school the public institutions were around just under 20%. We're seeing the private institutions now over 25%. So private institutions are older. They were built earlier, not built as much at one point in time, and the private institutions have been able to stabilize. It still is, despite the fact they've been able to stabilize, they still have a quarter of their space in need of renovation, probably missed